everybody. Hey. We got a couple of customers on this side. Bob,
Yep.
you want to join me?
Sure. Governor, you place us where you want.
That's good. You go right there. Perfect. All right. No.
Don't.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. My name is Doug O'Malley. I'm the Director of Environment New Jersey. I also serve as President of the Charge EVC Board and a member of the Jersey Renews Coalition. I'm honored to be here with all of you, but especially with the Governor, legislative sponsors of S-2252, A4819, affectionately known as the EV or Electric Vehicle Bill. And we're here today for this bill signing because this is the most significant bill since the passage of Clean Cars in 2004 to reduce air pollutants and global warming pollution from our cars and light trucks. This bill will make New Jersey once again a leading state in electrifying our transportation sector and moving towards a future of zero emissions coming from our tailpipes. This legislation is also a huge step to put us on the road to finally meet our clean car mandates and to put New Jersey Transit on par with more than 60 transit agencies across America that are committed to electrifying their bus fleets. Transportation remains our largest source of global warming pollution, with more than 40% of our emissions coming from our cars and trucks. But it is also the largest source of ground-level ozone, and a majority of New Jersey counties fail according to the American Lung Association. We have more than 164,000 children that suffer from pediatric asthma in the state and 600,000 adults that suffer from asthma conditions. Thankfully, we are part of the Clean Cars program, which the state of New Jersey, thanks to our Attorney General and the Governor, is defending. Both of this administration and other administrations across this country are defending the Clean Cars program against attacks from the Trump administration, attacks that are, might I say, specious to say the least. The reason why this is so important is because 16 years ago, when the New Jersey legislature passed Clean Cars, when Governor McGreevey signed it, it made New Jersey a leading state. We were the first state to do it legislatively. We acted, and more than 7 states followed our lead, and then the Obama administration, under President Obama, made Clean Cars the law of the land. Now we're 16 years later, and EVs aren't just a hope. They're on our roads right now. But we are also in a world where we have still a number of obstacles for EV adoption. And that's partially because during the Christie years, there was no progress. Governor Christie even worked to gut the Clean Cars program and its mandates. Obviously, things have changed. With the Murphy administration, we've seen an effort to electrify our transportation sector that has come roaring back. We've seen historic investments through the Volkswagen settlement dollars in electrification. We've seen New Jersey join a coalition of Northeast states to focus on zero-emission vehicles. And we've seen an effort, a joint agency effort under the Partnership to Plug In to create a $30 million kickoff for EV rebates. Now, the most important act, of course, is the one in front of us. And this has been a journey for more than 2 years to get legislation over the finish line. And that's why I'm so honored to be joined here, not only by our legislative sponsors, but by Governor Murphy, who will sign this legislation. Governor.
Thank you, Doug. Well said, as always. Thank you all. Thank you. More on Doug in a second. As you may recall, I moonlight, in addition to being governor, as responsible for weather. So please allow me to spend a minute on the weather before we talk about why we're here. We have preparations for the latest batch of winter weather heading into our region. We have been in constant communication with the National Weather Service. Diane, I see you out there, as we have for each of the prior storms. There is the potential of 2 to 4 inches of snow accumulation, I think largely in the northern counties, with snow expected to start on Saturday morning and to continue through that evening. That'll be tomorrow. The rest of the state will likely have a wintry mix and up to an inch of snow. As with any other winter storm, there is still a great deal of uncertainty, but between and among our state police, the Office of Emergency Management, the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness, the Department of Transportation, and the rest of the Cabinet. We are closely watching the situation, and we have the personnel and equipment ready to move to get us through whatever comes our way. I do ask once again all New Jerseyans to practice common sense and caution. If you have to be out on the roads tomorrow, please take it easy, as conditions may be slippery in many areas. Let's make sure that everyone enjoys a safe weekend. Tammy and I have a 5K on tap this weekend. We'll see whether or not that comes to pass. Regular weather updates and safety information will be posted by the Office of Emergency Management on their website, my favorite source, ready.nj.gov, ready.nj.gov, and on their social media channels as well. They are on Facebook at Ready New Jersey and Twitter and Instagram at ReadyNJ. Pearl, are you here still? And Megan? And also, as always, at your mom. Please stay safe. That's not true. Yourmom.com. Please stay safe and err, all kidding aside, on the side of caution tomorrow. Again, good afternoon, everybody, and I apologize, completely my bad for being a few minutes behind the clock. Thank you, Doug, again, for your incredible passion and words and your leadership in so many areas important to our environment, and you have a lot of fellow advocates with us today, and to each and every one of them who helped in your own way to get this across the goal line, a deep appreciation. And as you mentioned, Doug, today New Jersey will take a big step forward in our efforts to reposition our economy and our state for a cleaner future. In just a few minutes, I will sign proudly bipartisan legislation that will transform our transportation sector and modernize our transportation infrastructure. Starting today, New Jersey will take its rightful place as a leader in the electric vehicle revolution that is changing the way Americans drive and the concept of what it means to fill it up. There are so many people to thank for getting this bill to my desk. All the legislators, certainly it does indeed take a village. I cannot sign that which does not come to my desk. And I must specifically thank the bill sponsors with us today, Senator Bob Smith, who you'll hear from, Senator Linda Greenstein, Assembly members Dan Benson, Nancy Pinkin, and Jim Kennedy. Thank you to each of you for your leadership on this. We will hear from a few of you. We're also going to hear from Pam Frank, CEO of Charge EVC Coalition. I also want to give a shout out to cabinet members Tim Sullivan, CEO of the Economic Development Authority, the aforementioned Diane Gutierrez-Scacchetti, the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Catherine McCabe, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Joe Fiordaliso, the President, not of the United States, but of the Board of Public Utilities. I also want to again acknowledge First Lady Tammy Murphy and all the other advocates and interested parties here today. Thank you for everything you've done. And again, I thank everyone, and Pam will speak in a few moments, everyone who came together under Charge EVC, the coalition of business leaders, including in the automotive sector, in the environmental community. Jim, thank you for being here. And I thank the great partnership to Plug In that has brought the Board of Public Utilities, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Economic Development Authority together in common purpose in a manner that dovetails with this bill. Much has been made of our efforts to change how we get our energy, like our focus on maximizing our offshore wind potential. And yes, changing how we get our energy is a very big thing that will make us a global leader in so many respects. But changing how we use our energy is just as transformative and perhaps an even bigger thing. As Doug mentioned, more than 40% of our fossil fuel emissions come from one single sector, transportation, and mostly from our cars. This contributes to our having among the worst air pollution of any state, a distinction I am committed to changing. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. We are, after all, a state that was purpose-built, wisely or not, for the automobile. We can't undo a half-century of planning, but we can adapt to lessen its environmental impacts. Today, auto manufacturers are putting more and more electric vehicles in their showrooms and continue to improve the models already available. So we need programs in place to make these cars more appealing to more consumers. Part of this is to bring down price points and put electric vehicles within the reach of more families. Another is building out our charging infrastructure. This is vital. We rank 7th in the nation in the number of EVs on our roads, but last in the number of charging outlets per vehicle, only 1 outlet per every 35 EVs. We are well behind our competitors. With vehicle rebates of up to $5,000 and a $500 charger incentive, we will be better situated to reach our goal of 333,000 electric vehicles on the road by the year 2025. There are many consumer-focused reasons for us to put more EVs on our roads, but I also think of the residents, largely communities of color, African American and Latino families, who live in the shadows of the overpasses or alongside the highways, which carry tens of thousands of commuter cars every day into our city centers. For example, the kids in Newark South Ward experience asthma rates many times that of their peers elsewhere. And likewise, right here in Trenton, the adult asthma rate is more than 3 times the statewide average. I'm sure not many people think about them as they drive past these neighborhoods on their way to work. And in Trenton, the overwhelming number of those commuters are people coming to work in state government, including yours truly. We must acknowledge the impact we have on the residents of our capital city. Yes, this is a cause and effect phenomenon. The cause is air fouled by car pollution, and the effect is poorer health and worse health outcomes. So this bill is also not just about our environment, but about furthering the cause of environmental justice. And as our cities see themselves transforming and revitalizing with more new residents moving in every day and more businesses opening up, our goal must be to see more EVs not just driven by commuters, but by residents as well. In roughly 10 days, I'll put forward our new energy master plan that will get us to the 100% clean energy economy we envision for the year 2050. Reducing our state's carbon footprint by changing the way we generate energy is a huge step. But putting that carbon back into the air because of our reliance on the internal combustion engine to get to work or to get around town is a step back. So EVs have a big role to play in our energy future and to seeing us successfully implement our energy master plan. The choices we make are clear, and I want us moving ever forward. Again, I cannot thank the legislators in particular and the advocates who helped us get to where we are today. This is a big step. And by the way, the rebates and incentives we create today will help us accomplish the very goal that we are setting out to achieve. Again, I thank everyone for their tremendous work on this bill. I'm honored to sign it in a few minutes. But first, I'd like to invite Charge EVC's CEO, Pam Frank, to come on up and say a few words. Pam, come on down.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am so glad we're finally at this day, January 17th. It's a big deal. It's my mother's 80th birthday, by the way. She's sitting out there, and I had to say that. You're going to kill me for that.
Is she here?
She is here. Of course she's here. She's right there. She's gonna
time
kill
out,
me.
time out.
Oh boy, here we go.
Everyone ready?
Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday,
Susan.
dear
Susan.
Mom.
Happy birthday to you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Pleasure. We go home now.
So there's so many people in this room today, too numerous to thank. I have to acknowledge and thank Governor Murphy for his leadership. Senator Bob Smith, with whom I've had the privilege and honor of working before, he's not afraid to do big things, and I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for this. Assemblywoman Pinkin and Benson for their leadership, Senator Greenstein, who's been talking about clean cars for a very long time. None of this would have been possible without all of your leadership. I also want to acknowledge, and maybe Charge EVC is a bunch of strange bedfellows, and nothing else symbolizes that probably better than our officers. Scott Fisher out there, you can raise your hand, who's an executive with Green Lots. Jim Appleton, who heads NJ Car, that represents all of the dealers. And, of course, back of me, Doug O'Malley, who is one of our best environmental advocates. They are part of the leadership of Charge EVC, and without them, none of this would be happening. I will be brief since it's Friday, and I think we all want to get out of here. But I would be remiss if I didn't use the very brief time I have up here to just remind us of one very important fact, and that is this. It's taken us too long to get here today. This is a big thing we did. It was a necessary thing we did. It's a very important thing we did. But unfortunately, the pace of government really lags way behind the pace of rising emissions. That has to change. That is not an easy thing to change. The institutions and the people that work in those institutions need to change. The way government works with the private sector and the NGO community needs to change. All of this is really hard work. So, Governor, you definitely have your work cut out for you. We're going to really look forward to swift implementation of everything in this bill, figuring out new ways of working so we can get to the place we want to be. And I'm just really proud to be a New Jersey person today. I just want to thank everybody for making this possible. Thank you.
Well done, Pam. Great job. Thank you, Pam. Well said. And you're completely right. We have a lot of ground to make up, particularly given what we inherited, I have to say. So we were in a hole and we're digging out of it. Thank you for your leadership. And, Mom, happy birthday again. Pam mentioned him. I mentioned him as well. Mentioned the legislative leadership. An extraordinary effort to get to today. And I want to ask a few of the legislative leaders to come on up and say a few words, beginning with a constant and leading voice on many things, especially the environment, Senator Bob Smith.
Thank you, Governor. What a fabulous, fabulous day. What I would agree with Pam, took a little longer than it should have, but we're here. And I think one of the reasons we get across the finish line today is because we have either one of the greenest or the greenest governor in the United States of America. And I think we need to recognize that. And by the way, on that teamwork note about this was a teamwork bill, and it really was, beside all of the environmental advocates and Charge EVC, I'd like to also publicly recognize and thank your staff. Your staff was there every inch of the way and helped us to find a consensus that worked for everybody. So, Governor's staff, A+ to you as well. So, on a great day like this, should you be a little cautionary, all right? And I'm going to be a little cautionary. When this bill is signed, we have 9,300,000 winners. We have one loser. All right, the 9,300,000 are all the citizens of the state who are now going to have this great stimulus package to buy and use EVs and help us clean our air. The one loser is Joe Fiordaliso. And let me tell you why, Joe. I don't know if you realize it or not, but you now have a 1,000-pound gorilla on your back. And the 1,000-pound gorilla it comes from two sources. The first is to make this really work, to make sure as many New Jerseyans are using EVs as possible. We got to have charging structure, and we got to have it everywhere. And the entity that is going to be responsible for this, and the bill made it clear, we did the stimulus side, but the infrastructure side is yours. We need the public and private sector thoroughly engaged in this and on the ground as quickly as possible, because if people in our state can't charge their EVs, they're not buying them. All right, so that's number one on the hit parade. And the other two on the hit parade, the promise of electronic vehicles is that one of the big promises that we're going to clean the air. Well, that works if you're not burning fossil fuels to generate the electricity that's being used by the EV. If you do that, you're just having the pollution in a different spot. So the governor's goal, the adopted policy of the state of New Jersey, to have all renewable energy by 2050 is critical. That's the only way we're really going to keep all of the promises that we're making to the people of New Jersey today. And again, Joe, on you, buddy. It's all on you. So I will close with this. You are not permitted to go home after this ceremony. You and your staff get back to the office and get us the end result that we all need. God bless. Everybody have a great day.
Great job. No pressure, Joe. No pressure. Thank you, Senator. And by the way, Dan and I were just saying this. There is a gap, which I referred to. I think maybe Doug did as well. Number 7 in total EVs, but number 50 in charging per capita. And that gap needs to be while the top needs to continue to go up, the bottom has to go up at a much faster pace. I think we're up for it, but it's a challenge. Two great leaders are going to say a few words from the Assembly. Again, we wouldn't be here without them. Please help me welcome Assemblyman Dan Benson.
It's so exciting to be here. I mean, I look back where we were just a few years ago. Offshore wind was kind of languishing. We were having concerns about where our solar industry was going. We were out of RGGI. And where are we today? We're supercharging offshore wind to make our grid greener. Solar power is again back moving where it should be. And when we talk about climate change or we talk about cleaner air, you can't talk about that without talking about transportation. And we see it. We've been behind a vehicle here or there. We've been out here during the summer heat here in Trenton and feel that difficulty in trying to breathe. And just imagine those of our family members, if you have one, that suffers from asthma. This is the way we get to that brighter future, cleaner future. And I've said it before when I've talked about this bill. At a time when our foreign entanglements and things are going in the international world, we often forget one of the reasons why we talked about EVs for many years and many decades, the promise, is to get us off a dependence on foreign oil. And it's a time, again, where we need to look about those benefits as well. But what's great about this bill, and I want to thank the governor again for his leadership, and I agree about being the top green governor in the United States. This really puts New Jersey not only just a leader on the East Coast, but sets us up to be a leader in this whole United States. More importantly, I want to thank my Assembly colleagues, our environmental chair, Nancy Pinkin, and Jim Kennedy, my district mate, Senator Greenstein. But a bill like this, of this importance, takes a lot of different twists and turns over these past 2 years. And I just want to recognize Senator Bob Smith. Throughout all of it, he was very calm and said, okay, let's figure out where we go next then. And he made sure that we kept moving forward. And there was a lot of points in this where we thought, is this it? And it didn't happen. So I want to thank the senator again for always being steadfast and saying, we can get this done, and we can get this done this session. So I'm just going to leave with a note of promise. Yes, sorry, Joe, no pressure. But this really was a full government effort. All the agencies realize the impact, not only just transportation. I'm chair of transportation, really excited about the goals in here for New Jersey Transit as well, but not just DEP, BEPU, but DCA and housing and all these other things. When we talk about codes and standards, this is going to impact everything. So this is a beginning of a brighter future for New Jersey, a cleaner future, and one where consumers can now see a more affordable option to take that and take that home. So just want to congratulate everyone and thank all the stakeholders and advocates that work to make this day happen. Thank you, Governor.
Great job. Really well said. Really well said. By the way, this pressure is not new to Joe. He faced the same pressure in the transition from horse-drawn carriages to cars in the Wilson administration.
He's leaving.
Sorry, Joe. I apologize. I've been working on that since Bob.
Make sure you have an extra pen for him.
Dan just said, make sure you have an extra pen for Joe, which I will. So serious, one more speaker, importantly, Nancy Pinkin. But before Nancy comes up, a very serious point. She and I were together yesterday at the JFK Medical Center for a discussion about the Affordable Care Act and health care more broadly. And I was proud to sign 9 bills yesterday, again brought to us by a great coalition of legislators, including Nancy, and basically codifying the federal elements of the Affordable Care Act into state law, so that if the Trump administration succeeds either legislatively, which is less likely now, or unfortunately maybe more likely through the courts to strip away some of the elements of it, that we would have that codified in the law. Things like protection for pre-existing conditions, essential medical benefits like maternity, emergency care, unfettered access to contraception, staying on your mom and dad's program till the age of 26. So we had a very good, specific, I thought, discussion about the healthcare piece. But then it broadened, and it broadened into the societal contributors to good or bad health. And today is a direct link to yesterday, Nancy, right? I mean, this is the fact of the matter is by doing what we're doing today, we won't see it overnight, unfortunately, and I agree with Pam, it's taken us too long to get here, but we are here. This is the beginning, this is the end of the beginning as opposed to otherwise, as Churchill said, but we will change the health outcomes by doing this today in this state and contribute meaningfully to a healthier state. A lot of this stuff links together. It's extraordinary. In any event, with that, please help me welcome a leader on this and so many other fights, Assemblywoman Nancy Pinkin.
Well, I do want to thank the governor and Senator Smith for being so environmentally active. Senator Smith has been a champion. We've had the most environmental agenda in a decade, and Senator Smith really has been just championing, in his calm, steady way, just pushing everybody forward. And he and I both looked at ourselves and said, this was a long time. We thought it was relatively a short time. The interesting thing about this bill, when you think about it, first of all, New Jersey's ground zero for climate change, right? We had Hurricane Irene, we had Hurricane Sandy. We put kids on buses with diesel that are getting the asthma, but we are directly impacted for this change. So it's so important to really be able to do this. And I think, as Assemblyman Benson said, when you look at the impact of having us be dependent on oil in Iran and the things that are happening in Iran, the hurricane, the fires that are happening both in California and Australia, what better time is it to take this issue up? But the interesting thing about this bill is that Assemblyman Benson and myself, we each had separate bills. We brought them together. When we first looked at this issue, we said, wow, this is such a big issue, so much money. We're a fiscally challenged state. How the heck are we going to get this done? Well, and in fact, we had a lot of conversations that we said, we're never going to get this done. We could work on other bills because this isn't going to happen. But we really came together. And the very last hearing we had, the interesting thing about it was so many of the different groups were together on this. We had all of the departments in the state working together. We had all the advocacy groups working together. We had business and industry in all the various aspects, the car dealers all agreeing that this was a good bill. Even the fuel merchants had good things to say about it. And that doesn't happen every day. That's sort of the testament of a great bill. And so we really appreciate everybody working together. When we do work together, we can make great things happen. And the part about the chargers, I think we're going to get there a lot quicker. It's already happening. We're seeing more and more cars on the road every day that are electric. And in fact, one good thing, if you have an electric car, I think that the battery in the bottom makes a good weight for driving around in bad weather. So think about that tomorrow. But we really appreciate everybody. And I do want to say also our staff, our legislative staff, who worked so hard on this. So really, it was great teamwork. If we can do this, we can do anything. So thank you so much.
Nancy, great job. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that's it. We'll take a couple of questions before we sign on the dotted line. Please.
Governor, can you talk a little bit about how this bill makes New Jersey a national leader and how it compares to other states more specifically?
Well, we're number 7 in terms of number of electric vehicles, but you have to know number 1 is California, and the math, it's California and everybody else. There is an incentive here of up to, my late father-in-law would want me to emphasize the words up to, $5,000 per vehicle, which should accelerate that. And I think that incentive, unless the team corrects me, will be the highest incentive in the country, funded by the Clean Energy Fund, the diversion of which we've cut way back on, which allows us to fund this, by the way, for those other folks out there with voodoo math on NJ Transit. I'm just saying. It puts a significant emphasis into building out charging stations, community charging stations. Collective charging stations is a word I've used. It's probably not the right word. Again, funded by the Clean Energy Fund. It has a $500 incentive to do your own at your own house, to build your own charging station out. It's got very bold objectives for NJ Transit. So these are, when you add all that together, this is I don't think any state in America, Bob, tell me if you disagree, at least has the aspirations like ours.
The only state that you always have to watch out for is California.
California. And
we're racing with them
yep,
always.
You betcha. So I would bet one guy's opinion will come in, we'll have the silver medal X number of years from now And we need it because we're the densest state. For as many people as there are in California, we're denser than they are. So those are some of the pieces. David, how are you?
Very, very well.
I'm honored to have you here. It's been a while, so I have to make that point.
The honor is mine.
No, please.
I also want to thank you on behalf of Mike and a few of us here from the press corps for your 3 p.m. on a Friday.
I appreciate that. I do feel badly. We got 209 bills on Monday night, and we had to pick our places as to which ones we shone a light on this week and what time. So forgive me for that.
It may also not shock you that this is off topic.
Okay, it's also a holiday weekend, by the way. So, we just I think honored earlier this week Martin Luther King Jr.'s what would have been his 91st birthday, and we celebrate that as a national holiday on Monday. So please, this will be the first off-topic question I believe you've ever asked me.
So we spoke to Senate President Sweeney about your State of the State speech, and his reaction was a big shrug. He said there wasn't much in there, and that you talked about the same old stuff that you always talk about, but gave no mention to structural reform in the state as an alternative or as a by-product of the millionaire's tax. So what do you say to Senator Sweeney's comment?
This isn't, I wouldn't say it's specific to Senator Sweeney. I just give you a general answer, which is, number one, we inherited a mess. And it reminds me of turnarounds. When you buy a turnaround company, you run off tackle 3 yards every single play. You don't throw necessarily a lot of 40-yard passes. Today's a 40-yard pass. But you have far more day in and day out. And just because it's in January, where I'm statutorily required to give the State of the State, and I'm honored to, by the way, huge responsibility, folks should realize this is going to be more of the same. So if you like the fact we're making all-time historic investments in the middle class, in public education, health care, the environment, NJ Transit, and we are rebuilding a middle class that's been ravaged, and you think that more of the same of that is not terribly sexy or appealing, then you're probably not going to be you're not going to be along for the ride. We're the quintessential middle class state, and our job. I got elected to fix the economy from the middle class out, and that's education, health care, jobs. We announced Jobs NJ on Wednesday. I personally, that's a big deal. No other state in the country is doing that. I announced a commission on wealth disparity in the State of the State. No state in America has put that commission together, to pick two. You mentioned the millionaire's tax. I don't keep coming back to it because I'm being a pest. I come back to it because it's the right thing to do, particularly when you get 70-odd% of the people in the state who agree with me on that. And importantly, there are two fundamental reasons that underpin why I think it's so important. Number one is the use of the proceeds. So you take that amount of money in and you put it directly, every penny of it, into the middle class. Direct middle class property tax relief and helping us fund public education. I can't think of two higher callings right now in the state. The second reason is, particularly with this president, bless his heart, at some point the economy is going to run up on the rocks and we're going to have some kind of a recession. I hope we don't. And I hope it's not soon. And the indicators we have do not show it at the moment. But it's only a matter of time. We need as many reliable, regular, recurring sources of revenue to help us withstand that. We did not have that in the last recession. I'll be darned if we go into another one without that. Please.
There was some concern over this bill, I think, from the Division of Rate Counsel that the $5,000 rebates might just end up going to people who are going to buy electric cars anyway and not necessarily incentivize new buyers. Is that a worry that you should have?
I don't know. Bob, I don't think it's a worry. I mean,
No, I don't think so either. And Charge EV could probably speak to it better, but I believe that those incentives make all the difference in the world, and we're going to have a lot of people knocking on a lot of auto dealerships to get their electronic vehicle. Our job is to make sure there's plenty of charging for them. But I think we're going to see the revolution, and it's not going to be that long to see it.
yeah.
So the upside of having a lot of time before this bill became a law was we did our homework. There's a lot of data out there that shows us that $5,000 rebates move the market and move the market for people that would not otherwise buy these cars. Yeah. So we did our homework. It's a great bill. It's going to be a great law.
God bless it. making decisions based on facts. Oh my God! But seriously, the evidence does show overwhelmingly there's price, as the economists would say, price elasticity. And when you put up to $5,000 on the hood, as they say, this is money, boom, right up front with the dealer. You move people's consumption. Anybody else? Because we've kept you long enough here. I want to thank Pam so much for your leadership and all the advocates. Doug, that goes for you too, buddy. Senator, Assemblyman, Assemblywoman, other distinguished members of the legislature and cabinet, First Lady, everybody out here. This is a big day. Let's get this done. Come on down. No, but I can tell you Joe needs one. Here's the money shot. Okay, here we go. First up, the guy who introduced us today, Doug O'Malley, President, Charge EVC Coalition. Well done, Doug. Thank you. The CEO of Charge EVC Coalition, Pam Frank. Senator Bob Smith. Congratulations. These are genuine Phil Murphy governor pens, by the way. We have spared no expense today. Assemblywoman Nancy Pekin. I almost left you out here. Assemblyman Dan Benson. Senator Linda Greenstein. Assemblyman Jim Kennedy. The aforementioned, the one, the only, the singular President of the Board of Public Utilities, Joe Fiordaliso. Oh, Lord, we'll talk about this for years. The Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection, Catherine McCabe. 17th, right? 2020. In keeping with the theme of the day, 2020, not 1920. Please hear it up for Deborah Coyle McFadden, Executive Director of the Work Environment Council. I am incredibly honored to say that this is now the law of the land. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend.